athletes. I will be discussing our 2023 reflections as well as 2024 projections from a strength and conditioning point of view. Sorry about that. Just streaming into Instagram. Going into reflections. So, favorite content, I'll discuss those for those interested in following. I'll also discuss uh, influencers, so for mentors, those that helped me in 2023 from a coaching point of view. A shout out to our Propeller coaches and some of the achievements they've made, both with our coaching and the athletes they're working with, as well as um, their own personal growth. And then shout out to a couple of our top members and, of course, our virtual assistants that help us out with our content creation, including the podcast and social media and providing it to all you guys, our followers. So, firstly, we'll go into our favorite content. So, from a podcast point of view, shout out to the digital marketing shows. If you're interested in digital marketing, the guys there doing a fantastic job. Podcasting Business School, that's a new one that I've found over a few months. So shout out for anyone that's running a podcast. I think that's a great resource. Franz Bosch and the team there with their Instagram. We're lucky enough to have Franz on the podcast, and it was amazing episode. An inspiring coach as well as educator. So if you haven't checked out his work, please do. Athletes Authority, both with their podcast and the content they're putting out on social media. Most of you guys will be aware of that. The DGR podcast, I've also started listening to his podcast this year. And first podcast that I ever listened to was the Pacey Performance podcast. So shout out to all those guys in terms of favourite content. If I've missed anyone there that you think is similar to those content, please, and that you enjoy or value their content, please send them my way. I'd love to check out other social media platforms that are educating as well as other podcasts. From an influencer's point of view, those that have helped shape me from a strength and conditioning point of view, firstly, Selwyn Griffith, the High Performance Manager at Melbourne Football Club, my manager, as well as the whole team, High Performance Medical team, and all staff players at the Melbourne Football Club. Really enjoyed the year as rehab coach there, working with those athletes that get injured and bringing them back to performing on the weekends. Love that role. Absolutely love the support I got from Selwyn and the rest of our team. It was probably the biggest growth roles that I've ever done in the industry. There's just so much to learn, both from understanding the pathology, understanding the athlete and how they play and bringing them back to their demands of their game and their role within the team. And then, of course, understanding how to get an athlete back, whether it be pre-season, in-season, or finals, and how that different schedule and different time of year can influence your decision-making. Shout out to Dean Benton. We had a couple of catch-ups regarding plyometrics and drilling, so I learned heaps off him. Also bumped into him at the ASCA. If you're not aware of DB's background, he wrote a couple of blog posts for us as well this year. So make sure that if you search for Dean Benton sprinting, there was a fantastic blog post on how to improve team-based athlete sprinting effectiveness for that game speed. So make sure to check that out. Luke Vella and the High Performance Medical team at the Rebels. Lucky enough to spend a couple of days in the off season with them. Invaluable experience being able to shadow and listen and learn and ask questions on how they run things. There was a lot of similarities between rugby and football in terms of the flow of the day and just the dynamics of working with the athletes. So really grateful, for the opportunity I got to go there and to be able to maintain and build those relationships over the year as well. Because when we're at AAMI, we have lots of corridor conversations throughout. So looking forward to staying in contact with the team there. ASCA and the conference, one of my favourite years. I haven't been for a few years, but it was invaluable resource, both from practical learning, but also from just the conversations you're having in between meetings and being able to reconnect with our industry, both AFL, but also on a wider, broader scale. And both from a podcasting point of view, it was great to be able to meet people. Obviously, the podcast I mainly hosted over Zoom, over the computer. So to be able to meet people face to face that have been on the show was it was a real treat. Sports Map, I did Jonas Dodu's workshop as well as Tim McGrath's. So shout out to Nick Kane, head physio at Essendon Football Club, who also is founder of Sports Map. They're doing great work there. Physios would be highly aware of what they're doing, but also S&Cs. They're starting to provide some great workshops from a strength and conditioning point of view as well. So make sure to check them out. Going over, I'll just be quickly on these reflections and then I'll move into some of the projections. I actually put in ChatGPT some questions, interview-based questions around 2024 from a strength and conditioning point of view, and I'm just going to answer those in order. So I just thought that'd be an interesting exercise to do it rather than me coming up with the questions. So it will be live and impromptu, and I haven't prepped notes for those questions. So looking forward to giving that a go. But shout out to our coaches. So Dylan Vazzari has been with us day one. He looks after our athletes on the east side of Melbourne. They've done a fantastic job with all our athletes this year, and all the athletes absolutely love working with him. And then also the work he's been doing at Box Hill Hawthorn have landed him an opportunity which he thoroughly deserves at the North Melbourne Football Club in a full-time capacity, managing their VFL program and assisting athlete development of the first and second year players. So massive shout out to Dylan. Wrap that opportunity, and no doubt 2024 is going to be a fantastic year for him. So shout out to Dylan. Ben Frith, who looks after our athletes around the Cranbourne area, has been doing great work. All the athletes have loved working with Ben, love the feedback, the individual feedback they're getting back in terms of their running efficiency, and they're both from acceleration, sprinting, change direction. So couldn't be happier having Ben on board. Caleb Morgan, who's looking after athletes over the west side of Melbourne, and he's also back in the game working at Richmond Football Club as a rehab coach. And he did a fantastic job. Michael Oakes referred to us, who's a player agent, some AFLW athletes to look after, including the who just got redrafted as the number one draft pick. And Caleb looked after their draft combine preparation. So there was some standout results both in the vertical jump, sprint, and the fitness time trial as well. So well done to Caleb, particularly on that, on the work he did with those girls, but also year round with all the athletes in West Melbourne. And then Jordan Love, who has been working with athletes Bayside, which was where I was working with the athletes, but moved away from the private business this year with my full-time role at the D's. So appreciate Jordan coming on and looking after our Bayside athletes, as well as he worked at Casey Demons and has just landed an opportunity as the high performance manager of the Frankston Dolphin. So awesome opportunity to be able to grow in that role and lead a program. So looking forward to what Geordie's got in store for 24. Top members, you guys know who you are, and I just wanted to quickly just recognise the work that you've been putting in year round, and thank you for all the work that you've put in and the development that you've made over the year 2023. So just a shout out to a small number of you guys that been with us for the whole year and putting in some really good work. So Sammy Kilme, Cooper King, Finn Raymond, Ash Ladson, Liam Hewitt, Chloe Weston. There's heaps more to note down, but they were the big ones in terms of just putting in the work and getting the results. So well done. And then our virtual assistants, we wouldn't be able to create as much content for you all without the help of Cheryl, who looks after all our thumbnails and digital copies. So something that I don't have expertise in. So she looks after making everything look good on the eyeballs, as well as managing our Instagram and social media from a content scheduling point of view. Revelation, we launched our Academy membership fresh website over the last year. So she's helped out with both launching both our websites, propellerpro.com as well as propellerproacademy.com.au. And we're constantly refining our content and platform there. So shout out to Revelation. And Hazel, who's been with me for the last couple of years, manages the podcast. So scheduling, editing the podcast episodes, as well as providing just general assistance on how we're managing the back end of our content like blog posts and so forth. So shout out to Cheryl, Revelation, and Hazel. That's the reflections of 2023. It was a fantastic year. Moving into 2024, so as I mentioned, I'm going to use ChatGPT as our podcast. I just wanted to make sure that we're getting audio, so bear with me. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, hopefully Instagram, as you can hear us. I'll move into the projections for 2024. So first one. I can use this here. Bear with me 2 minutes, guys. If you're listening in live, I just want to make sure that the audio is working. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah. Okay, so what were the standout moments and key lessons learned in the world of elite coaching 2023? From my end, it was definitely the running efficiency and effectiveness. So some of the work that Jonas has been publishing, it feels like doing drilling work, plyometric, performance prep, whatever you want to call it, but that work that we do leading up to the main group warm up is something like obviously Franz's work as well has been revolutionary in that space. But make sure we're working on not just building capacities, so their aerobic fitness, strength, how heavy they can lift, as well as their power, but also how well they're moving. So I feel like that's particularly in running gait has been a big area of focus in the industry this year. So that would be my reflection and also projection. I reckon that will continue for 2024, both with acceleration as well as change of direction. I think that would be the big two. Yes, sprinting will be important, but I think the more analysis that we're making with sprinting is that athletes are spending far more time, obviously, accelerating as well as change of direction. So that game speed, if we like to call it, I think focusing on really making sure the work that we are doing is transferring to the game. Not that we wouldn't be exposing athletes to sprinting, but we want them to be able to reach their maximum speed or close to 95% in less time and in less amount of distance. So it's more relevant to the way that they're going to play. So that, I think, prediction for 2024. Next question, what emerging trends do you foresee in elite coaching for the year 2024? Are there any specific strategies or innovations that coaches should be prepared for in the coming year? Emerging trends, I think probably this year I noticed plyometrics were a emerging trend. I think in 2024 maybe it tends to go in roundabouts, so we things will pop up and then go back down and revolve around. I imagine agility, so true reactive, reacting to a stimulus, and being able to cut, drop step, effectively will be a key area that coaches will want to be competent with and be able to confidently develop athletes with for footballers. What challenges do you anticipate coaches will face in 2024 and how can they turn these challenges into opportunities for growth? I reckon the challenges will be being able to manage building. It seems like a lot more coaches now, especially younger ones developing in and starting out into the industry, are developing their brand while also climbing the ladder of elite sport. If I think back to my career, I wasn't on social media, so I wasn't really focusing too much on developing a brand up until the last 2 years, where I've been in the industry for over a decade. So I think that can be a challenge where you're trying to develop a brand, educate, as well as get further progress in your career and get bigger opportunities in your career. So being able to manage those two things um, it would be a challenge. But the opportunity with that is that building a brand earlier in your career is going to pay dividends for later on. So the earlier you start, as long as you can manage it and it's not taking away from your primary role at whatever football club you're working at, will be a good thing. So just managing your time and prioritizing where you're spending your energy. How can coaches enhance athlete development in the upcoming year? Are there any new approaches or methodologies in training that coaches should be considering? I reckon view motion. So I've had a couple of meetings with Ryan Talbot about from using it from like a pro point of view. That's something we're definitely interested in 2024. So using artificial intelligence simply with the iPhone, the camera, and setting it up and looking at people's running gait and getting AI to give you the kinematics, the joint angles they're hitting in key positions of the running cycle, as well as both from acceleration, sprinting, and change direction, deceleration. So all those four qualities. So that's something that if I was a coach listening in, I would consider looking into using AI to help with your coaching eye, with your testing battery, and being able to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of how athletes are moving, as well as probably objective data as well. So if you're not familiar with like Vol's work with force decks and using their equipment to be able to assess how effective your program is over time from a capacity point of view, that would be one thing. So being more objective, I guess, would be a recommendation to enhance athlete development. Moving down the list, given the ever-evolving landscape of sports, how can coaches stay adaptable and responsive to changes in the industry? I think networking would be the biggest one for mine. So making sure you're keeping your finger on the pulse with those that you have worked with in the past, staying in contact, getting on the phone, maybe after work, after a day is done, and staying connected with those that you work with, just asking questions, noting things down when they arise, challenges that you're facing. Not doing things on your own. So I think that would be the key in being able to one, get an idea of where the industry is moving and the changes that are being made, but also two, for your own development and being adaptable. In what ways can coaches actively engage with the coaching community to share insights and experiences? Conferences would be a great one. So the AEST conference, for anyone to that, it's a great opportunity to connect with the industry. I would say going to any short courses or workshops like Sports Map, as I mentioned. Or the ASCA do like little online modules. I presented this year on the AFL reconditioning role. I think we had about 60 turn up to those. So although you're not really networking, it's a good way to upskill yourself for those online courses. It's something that I'll be doing this year, and there will be something I'll mention at the end of the show, but doing discovery call with coaches for free, where we'll catch up over Zoom and we'll discuss where you want to be in 6 months, both from a strength and conditioning point of view for those developing coaches, but also if you have your own business, how to get that off its feet and be able to not just trade time for money, but be able to build a passive income with your business. So if that's something that's interesting you, check out the show notes on the podcast of this recording. You can book in a Calendly with me. It'll be over Zoom. And if you want, the recording can also be aired on our podcast as a coaching audit for your lessons to be able to then help others as well. But if you're not comfortable with that, I'm more than happy to not post on the podcast, of course, and just keep it between you and me, that private coaching call. But that can be another way. Joining our Coaches Academy, there's a discussion forum and there's opportunities to catch up with other coaches in there. Looking back at 2023, can you share a specific coaching experience or moment that had a significant impact on your approach or philosophy? Good question, ChatGPT. I had many, as I mentioned, like being new to that AFL reconditioning role at Melbourne Footy Club, there was constant learning and growth uh, in that experience. I wouldn't say there's one area that I see had significant impact on my approach or philosophy, but it's something that I'm always evolving to be able to make a greater impact in that role. So, yeah, sorry, playing a straight bat with that one, but nothing that's springing front of mind. As we step into 2024, what do you believe will be the game changers in elite coaching, and how can coaches best prepare these shifts? I answered this one a little bit earlier, so I reckon it's being more objective, not getting consumed and overwhelmed with the data, but making sure you've got a strong filter in what's really important for that athlete. So if you are using view motion or artificial intelligence to assess their running gait, are you going to focus on more the attractors or more the fluctuators? So we want to be focusing more on the attractors. So things like their uh, toe off position, their running stance, are they hitting figure four when their foot's getting in contact with the ground? So these sort of things. What things are you going to not mention to the athlete because you feel that that's maybe their specific strategy and it's not a problem? And what are going to be other areas that you can use to like the objective testing with force dex testing to be able to analyze and be really clear on what's important for that athlete rather than just having a shotgun approach and giving them feedback on a million different things. Being able to assess many different things and then just give the athlete one or two areas that are really, really important for that athlete. I think that's a key skill in today's coaching, both from what you're seeing with your coaching eye and back that in, but also what's the data telling you, and then of course as well what's like telling you and the rest of the team that's working with that athlete. So that uh, holistic approach and collaborative approach really, really important. Considering the challenges that coaches may encounter in the coming year, can you provide practical advice on overcoming obstacles and turning them into opportunities for improvement? A bit of double up with these questions, but I think the challenges, like I said, will be managing building your own brand while also developing and climbing the ladder of elite sport. You want to make sure that building that brand isn't negatively influencing your career progression and the work that you're doing with the football club. That should always be number one. And then you're working on the brand behind the scenes, have a bit of a slower approach. So that way, ultimately, what's going to allow you to grow and develop is bigger roles, big opportunities. So whether that be you might be a volunteer now, how do you get your first paid contract at a club? How do you then go to a part-time with an elite sporting club to then your first full-time contract? If you've got a full-time contract, maybe you're working VFL, AFL, how do you go full-time just the AFL? And then if you're in an AFL role, how do you then progress to a different full-time role? Maybe you're like me, you're a reconditioning coach. How do you then be the head gym guy, the head strength and power coach, or high performance manager? So we want to prioritize that aspect while in the background you're working on your brand. I think that's going to be the challenge. When it comes to athlete development, are there any specific areas or skills that coaches should prioritize? That one I answered a little bit earlier. So there you go, guys. That's ChatGPT's questions for projections for 2024. If you've got any questions that I didn't cover and you're a strength and conditioning coach and you want to book that discovery call, like I mentioned earlier, click the link, our Calendly link in the show notes. And basically, we'll just go over where you want to be in 6 months. So it's like a goal setting exercise. Start of the year, there's no better time to host that. And that's something that I'm going to be doing in 2024 to help out developing coaches. So if you know of a coach or you are a coach, click that link, book in a time. I've already got a couple of coaches, Ash and Zach, that have booked in. So looking forward to catching up with them. Ash this afternoon and Zach tomorrow. So if that's you and you're listening to the podcast, jump on board, and I look forward to catching up over Zoom. Thank you for everyone that's tuning into this episode. I will see you on our next live interview.